So obviously you have the repository of like sources that you are inheriting that came before you, but what did you make the sources who you identified and ended up bringing on? Did you usually get those through the sources that you already had, or what would you look for in people to make them a source? Like, was there a type of a target kind of person that you always wanted to have in your pocket?
Yeah, for me, for the most part, when I got in country, the last thing you want to do is, in my opinion, is have a source. Say, I know a guy. You need to bring him on. Because, you don't want to do that. I mean, because you know that part of that motivation is going to be money. You never want to work with somebody for the money, right? You want them to have some type of buy-in, outside of the financial piece to it. And so, so the pool that I got was always pools that were already kind of established for the most part, except for there was one deployment I was on where, like, we got there and trying to be very vague about this.
Take your time.
But there wasn't a source pool for the most part, but the group of guys was vetted because they were tied to a government that was trying to help us out with what we're doing. That's the vaguest way I think I can explain it, right? So it wasn't like I'm going out in town and trying to find somebody or anything like that. Like, or try to hear a story of a guy who family got murdered by Al Qaeda, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna go have a conversation with that guy and say, hey, you want a chance to get back? I've never found myself in that position. I've always either inherited a stable and then got rid of guys. Like, there were times where I was just like, yo, this dude hasn't performed, or this dude is like BSing, or this dude's motivation has completely changed. He's just in it for the money, and then cut ties. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So on the mission side themselves, though, once you actually would be approved to, you have enough intelligence, because it sounds like your end of it, you're the guys who are determining a good amount or number of the missions, percentage of the missions that end up happening, because you're kind of the tip of the spear. Is that fair to say?
I want to say good. Are you talking about human guys across the board? Or are you talking about?
Yeah, across the board for the various teams.
It's a piece. It's a piece in the puzzle. You know what I mean? Because you could have all the meetings and collect all the information as you want, but if other pieces don't connect, there's no mission that's happening. If that makes sense. So it's like, it's just a piece. That's the best way I can explain it. Because you could be getting intelligence because what if a government agency like has some information, key information, and then that information gets vetted, then you're going out the door. Like, you didn't really have the playing that role, right?
That's what my common sense was telling me. And then when I was listening to you talk, I don't know if it's different like team to team. It sounded like a lot of the missions were happening because of yours, and I'm sure some were, but like there's a balance of it.
It's a balance. It's a balance. A lot of it is not happening just because of me, or just because of my effort, or just because of the effort of the guys in the shop. It's different things. It's even meeting with like somebody who's high up in an area, like a sheikh or something like that, you know what I mean? And have a sit down with them. So it's definitely, all the onus doesn't fall solely on human guys, and it never fell solely on me. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's a team. And so it's like, I'm just bringing a piece to the table, and hopefully that piece lines up with what's already been brought to the table, or hopefully whatever's been brought, or vice versa. If that makes sense. And that's just that's the way it plays out.
I'm doing math in my head because you were telling me earlier you left the teams January 2016.
Yeah.
And you did like 8.5 years in the teams.
8 years. Yeah.
So you're getting in 08-ish, 09-ish?
No, I joined the Navy in 2002.
Right, but I'm saying you're getting into the SEALs.
Oh, yeah. 2007, 2008.
Right, so this is now where you're going over there and you're seeing combat and these situations. Yeah. And I'm just thinking about, like, this is now 5 years post-Iraq, 7 years post going into Afghanistan. Yeah. There's instability over there in the Middle East. What was that like? Like, what was that time period like? It seems like it would have been especially when you were coming in, a time where the morale was maybe at like an all-time low from
the military morale?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I would say for our community, guys don't go through hell. Hell, go through buds to sit or go sit in Guam, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was like the I don't want to say punishment. That was like the anticipation of finding out where you were going and knowing that there's a chance that after you finish this workup, your platoon could go to the Philippines or go to Guam or go to Bahrain and just sit for 6 months. That's frightening. You know
You
what I
guys
mean?
want the action.
You want to, yeah. You go through training and all of this stuff and all of this workup because you want to do a job. That's what you train for. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like in our community, it's just like getting after it. You know, that's why we want to be where the party is, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I could have been a little more clear on that question. Like, what in your opinion? Were there things in, and again, we're being vague with exact places. It's just how it is from an intelligence perspective here. But like, were there things in the Middle East that you identified as, oh, this is not going to get better? Because I'm thinking, this is a few years before ISIS. Like, did you kind of see something like an ISIS coming?
I can't say that I mean, to me, I think I can't say that I saw ISIS coming. I can say that I knew that I felt as though something would fill the void. I just didn't know what that something would be at some point, right? So if we're talking about Iraq or if we're talking about Afghanistan, if we're talking about, other places, like Taliban swooped in and filled that void, right?
Yes.
Took over. ISIS swooped in and filled that void, once Americans pulled out for the most part, right?
Yes.
And so it was always in the back of everyone's, I would say most people's head that like, and that was one of the reasons why I think the part of the goal, and I want to be careful because I don't want to speak to what was going on in the minds of generals and admirals because I don't know, but I think that maybe one of the goals was to try and stabilize it and strengthen the governments or people in power to the best of our ability so that whoever did come fill that void wouldn't be successful.
Yeah, it's interesting, and hindsight's 20/20 now. But we're great at a lot of things as a country. One of the things we don't seem to be the best at, and in fairness to us, I think most countries aren't good at it from a power perspective. But like, spreading the democracy the right way or getting the right people in charge. You look at it, that just seems to be. I mean, you mentioned it yourself. The Afghanistan example is phenomenal for all the wrong reasons because you spent 20 years and yet. Same ending, Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.